don't wanna be friends. I don't wanna be friends. I don't wanna be friends. I don't wanna be friends. Can we start over again? Cause I don't wanna be friends.
Hello everyone, and thank you all for tuning in to this week's episode of Sophisticated Sunday. I'm going to be your host for today, Dr. Shakir, otherwise known as Negzo, and I love black people. I'm here with my co-host.
Hi, my name is Dr. Truesdell, also known as Dr. T.
All right, so if you are going to be a fan of Dr. T, I want you to hit that flame emoji. And if you're a fan of me, hit the skull emoji. If you're a fan of both of us, hit both. You don't really even have to choose. Mm-hmm. So, let's just a brief introduction into who you are.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what your ancestral practice is? Can you tell us about a patron deity that you may work with? And then can you also tell us what what do you specialize in as far as your practice goes?
Okay. So I practice Ocha Ifa, which is one of the kind of sects of Ifa that mostly in Cuba. But I'm not Cuban, so that we can get into that later on. And so the deity that I work with the most is Shango, who's a warrior, who is a king, a strategist, a magician, the god of fire, hence fire, drum, thunder, and also dance, right? So he's the one that gets stuff done.
Okay.
Charismatically.
Okay. What would you say your specialty is? Are you a diviner, a magician, a medium?
So I think that's an interesting question, because I actually think of myself as a visionary. So the forward thinker, right? The one who can actually see ahead, the leader. So in my work, I'm an anthropologist by training, which means that I was trained to study and look at human society, right? And I used to do it through bones. I was initially biological, so I spent my undergrad and my master's looking at skeletal analysis and understanding how can we understand race through the bones, right? And I was trying to disprove that you can't really see race through bones; it's more a social construct. And then that got kind of boring because bones don't talk to you. So then for my PhD, I went in and started looking at human interactions, right, between people, and thinking about how does race intersect, or how does race help us or hinder us from having human connections with one another. And I did that in the UK and now the US as well. Okay. Yeah.
So how does your training help you with your practice as a priestess? Do you identify as a priestess? Are you a priestess?
So you call me a priestess, right? And I think I'm getting more comfortable with that term, but I still think I'm a priestess in training. Right? Yeah. So, because I'm an educator, so I always think about how I know what I don't know. And even with all the degrees and the publications and stuff, I'm always humble enough to know that I still am learning. So I think of this process as the next iteration of my own sense of self and research. It's like, how do I marry, or how do I bring together what I've learned in textbooks with my practice of spirit that is actually helping me understand who I am more and be more free in my humanity.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So as a visionary, when you envision your practice of Ocha Ifa, is there a real difference between someone seeking out the Orisha versus the Orisha seeking out the person? Is there a difference?
Yes, I think so. The Orisha don't need us, right? Right. So I guess it's more of, from how I understand it, we're born with folks who walk with us. Right? When we're born, we have people who walk. So we have Orisha, we have Luau, we have other types of deities we understand. We have spirit guides. Depending upon your practice, you have ascended masters, those who have ascended up because of the ways in which they've enlightened themselves on earth. So Jesus, Buddha, they're ascended masters, right? We have, if you believe in angels, you got ancestors, you got all these people who walk with you. So it's not about the Orisha seeking you out, they're always there. It's like, when has your ability to be able to see finally come to light? And sometimes folks can see, when they're young, and when you see that sight when you're young, it's kind of broken out of you. It's kind of, you're told that, it's crazy. That's not real. So I think a lot of times folks start coming back into spirit, whether it be Orisha, whatever that is later on, once we've realized that what we're told we should not see is actually what we should be seeing, if that makes sense. Right? So I think the Orisha don't need us. Let's be real. They're older than we can even comprehend. But when we awaken and kind of start to listen, then we find the Orisha again, if that's your path.
What you said at the end is something that I really agree with, that the Orisha don't need us, but when we awaken ourselves, we find them with us.
Yes.
Because they're always with us.
Yes.
A lot of people want to acquire these deity, but they don't understand that these deity are already with them, or they think that they have to initiate or to be a part of a certain blood lineage in order for those deity to walk with them. But they must understand that all types of deity are going to walk with you. You're going to have a mixture of those deity, but it's up to you to awaken yourself so that you can walk with them. Has that been your experience?
Yeah, it has been. And sometimes that awakening is really painful. Right?
Okay.
Right?
So let's talk about that.
Let's talk about pain. Let's talk about pain.
Let's talk about pain,
because pain is necessary, and sometimes in order to be able to fully understand the weight of what we're talking about, right? The weight of spirit, the responsibility of spirit. And if you're really willing and able to fully go that whole extra mile, right? It's really cute when you can, have the candle, or, be able to talk about the nicer aspects of whatever person you think walks with you, right? That's really easy. The work, though, is being able to ask yourself the question, what is your shadow? What is your ego, right? Are you willing to tell the truth to yourself, to sit in the muck, to sit in the pain, to have to learn those hard lessons, right? And the lessons will be taught to you in ways that even if you think you really get it, you can never really imagine, right? And so I think that a lot of times we awaken and it's painful. Mine has been a painful awakening, right? And not that I couldn't handle it, but it was not what I was expecting, right? So I had to question a lot of the things that I held as my core, right? I held as my core this idea that that I'm always a collaborative person, and that in order to be kind of accepted, you had to be agreeable, and if that agreeability meant that I had to kind of dull my own shine, or like sit in the shadow, I'm supposed to do that for the greater good, right? And that kept me hindered, because that's not my path. My path is to lead. My path is to vision. My path is to push forward. But I was afraid of that path, and so every time I would try to get a little shine, the next thing I know, I had folks coming out the woodwork to make sure that I always knew my place, right? And when I realized that lesson kept coming over and over again, because my job was to put them in their place, right, in a way that was still ethical and respectful, but it was more about me. That was a painful lesson, because then the people I thought rode for me dwindled away real quick, right? Those who I thought were ride or die were the first ones to stab me in my back, right? Because in that coming to Orisha, I had to let go what did not serve me, and that did not serve me. So it's a painful awakening, but it was a necessary one.
So what I'm hearing you say is that you mastered that lesson, though.
Hell yeah, because I'm doing that pain again. Shit. Like, that was hard. I'm good. Like, I learned
exactly.
During it, I was like, I'm good. Can we stop right now? You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like, yeah.
Let me throw out a statement at you. Just I think sometimes it's better to be quiet than it is to educate others about African spirituality. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Why?
Everyone comes to their lessons on their own time.
I agree.
Right? And so it would be really easy for me when I hear folks say certain things that I just don't agree with, right? About Orisha worship, about what does it mean to sit on the mat, what does it mean to engage. But sometimes the lesson, for me, I realized I'm an educator by training. I'm a teacher. I love to teach. I love to get and love to struggle in that deep thought together. But sometimes the lesson for me is shut the fuck up so somebody else can learn their lesson, which probably is going to be their painful way of engaging in their own way of work, right? So I've heard folks, say things about them damn Orisha candles, right? They have to get the certain candle on a certain day at a certain time, and they're going to put Oshun and other bunch of folks together on an altar and think that they're doing something. And it's like, I could sit there and explain how candles aren't part of the practice necessarily. Like, are you authorized to do that? What offerings are you give? Like, all that kind of stuff. Or I could mind my own business and let them figure out who is actually they're talking to, why they're doing it, and what are they actually longing for, right? Because if you're longing for Orisha connection, which to me, I'm hearing you say you're longing for community. But if you are skirting community in favor of this individual practice, then I have to then ask, okay, is it about ego then? You know what I mean? So that's a lesson you have to learn. And I think sometimes those lessons you have to learn means that other folks need to let you learn those lessons and let you alone.
Okay, and so do you think that some people are... Well, no, not even... Why do you think that some people want to circumvent community and go straight to the deity? Why do you think that is?
Because it's sexy. Right?
It's easy.
It's easy.
Sexy.
It's sexy, right?
Yeah, it's
like, it's sexy. It's like what's them shows? It's like True Blood meets Sabrina the Teenage Witch meets like, I don't know, like, you know, like the Hood Chronicles. You know what I mean?
Right,
And I think it's sexy, and I think that, like, I think it's sexy. I think that for Black folks, it's a way in the U.S. It's a way to connect back to roots that we know have been disrupted, right? But it's also, I'll be real frank, it's a real white way to do it. You know, it's a real Caucasian way to do it. You know what I mean? To like take something that was heavily rooted in community for thousands of years, right? That even in the uprooting of folks across that Atlantic, and you're still able to commingle and remake and make these new traditions that were based in that were still community based, right? To somehow think you can just pick and choose what you want out of those things and do it on your own. That's a real individualistic way of thinking it, which for me that means it's a real white way to think about it. So then it's like, is it then any longer called African traditional religion if you're doing it by yourself how you want to do it?
But many people find pride and peace as a lone practitioner. And these people sometimes live by their own code of behavior and ethics. Do you think that is a helpful way to engage African spirituality? Because that was going to be my next question.
But is it African spirituality then? So let's break it down. Let's bring it back to foundations, right? Let's bring it back to foundations then, right?
Help me to understand.
So then what is African traditional spirit? What is African spirituality? So I understand it as a couple of things. You know, you've talked about this over and over again on your channel. Oshun Fouquet's talked about it with you on this channel. It's a couple of fundamental things. Ancestral veneration has to be there, period, point blank. But so does community. You know what I mean? Like, it's a communal aspect that allows us to kind of breach the world between the living and the dead, the above and the below, so that we can learn how to do this thing called humanity that we've lost a long time ago, right? So if you want to be by yourself in the woods or in your kitchen or in the basement, I don't know where you're going to be by yourself, right? Then I'm not going to call it African spirituality. I'm going to call it that's an individual practice. So you like them Wiccans or them New Age folks, you know, who come and pick and choose and, you know, calling down deities. You have no idea who you're calling down. You wonder why your shit getting possessed or, you know, all this kind of stuff going on with you, right? That to me, and if you still broke, if you're still asking for the same love that you can't get, if you're still in the same spot over and over in that lone practitioner, it means because there's no ashe behind it, there's no power behind it, because the power comes in community. So then again, is it African spirituality to do it by yourself, or is it a picking of African traditional pieces for your own making? Right?
Well, damn.
Well, damn. Hit
the flame emoji if that shit was fire. Hit the flame emoji if that shit was true. Like, you can't just pick and choose what parts of African spirituality you want to do.
You can't.
Because a large part of it is community.
Yes.
A large part of it is collaboration.
Yes.
And you can't do it without collaborating with the community. Yes. But I also, you know, there are a lot of people out here that want to say that I am going to teach you the real about this religion, or I'm the best practitioner of this. I'm the best magician. If you fuck with me, I'm going to kill you with my ancestors, or, you know, I own this plot of land and bitch, you can't initiate, or you ain't shit. You African American, your ancestors ain't shit. There's a lot of people out there like that. And they feel like but those people will say they have no elders. They don't listen to elders. All they do is go to source. They say all they do is go to source. Now, I'm different, okay? I consult.
But how can you understand source if you ain't got no elders?
But this is the thing.
How you gonna understand the source if you ain't got no elders to teach you what the damn source is to begin with?
I mean, but there was a time. There was a time when I thought I was a child of Barone. And I dyed my hair purple. And I had never had a reading before. Cause my computer screen froze on Barone Samedi, and I was like, that's who has.
That's who got your head.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that's not my met tit, but I was like, you know, the gay they had my head, and I'm a child of Barone, and you know, I was out there doing it, sourcing it, no elder, but then I had to go to an elder to get it validated. But there are some people out here that are saying that you don't have to. They can lead you and teach you the right way, but they don't go to elders. They don't have elders. They don't listen to them. But they can lead us and teach us the right way.
So you being led by a damn demon then, or something. You know what I mean? Like,
is it right to say it's a demon though?
Well, but how do you know? Unless an elder teaches you. So let's break this down.
Okay.
Right? Let's break this down.
Right.
Let's break this down. There's a bunch of nuanced layers with this, right? You see this all throughout society right now, where there's this idea that somehow, when you talk about elders, talk about the past, talk about anything that is not current, hip, new, or youthful, that somehow is not needed, right? This is why we are where we here today. We don't know our goddamn history. We don't know where we come from. We don't know the ways in which communities engage with one another. We don't know the deep struggle and study needed to be able to get where we are here. We think it's this fast, newish, shiniest thing that's going to actually make us do something. At the end of the day, these traditions survived because people passed them down orally through violence and because it was always a way to freedom. Right? So we only have ATRs in what we call the New World, what we call the US, what we call the Caribbean, what we call South America. We only have these ATRs because of that deep connection that our ancestors had to spirit that they then transferred to new lands and commingled with indigenous folks here. Right? That's a commingling of ancestors that created this new articulations of what we call ATRs. We call it Ocha, Santeria, Palo, Voodoo, Candomblé. We have all these Obeya. We have all these different names, different locations, because the land teaches us how to engage with spirit, right, in this new spaces with these indigenous folks here. If you think that you can learn these deep-seated, orally handed down through struggle, through liberation, through rebellion, through resistance, through marronage, if you think you can learn all that by yourself, then you've already disrespected the tradition you're going into because you've disrespected those ancestral roots that have to come through elders teaching you how to venerate correctly, how to call down correctly, how to talk to correctly. So then again, is it African spirituality? If you refuse to understand the nuances of it, if you want to pick and choose what you want, if you then want to gatekeep that and say you can make your own shit, I'm not going to call that African spirituality, but I will call that colonizers mixing. I will call that a colonial way in which to engage in these religious traditions. So I guess I'm calling it white. You know what I mean? Like, that's all I can do with that. That's all I can do with that, right? Because then we're going against the essence of what the whole purpose of it is. If we understand African spirituality to be a way to liberate ourselves from these systems of oppression, of a way to bring us back to community, back to land and spirit, and to see those things commingled as a way for our way forward for liberatory practices, then that can never be alone. It has to always be in community with one another. Now, I ain't got to like your ass to do that. That's the thing. Don't confuse working in community of having being likable. That's the problem. We can work together for a common goal, but that don't mean we have to be BFFs to do it. I'm just saying.
Hit the fucking flame emoji for that shit, y'all, because...
Am I making sense, y'all? I hope I'm making sense.
Does this make sense? Hit the flame emoji if this makes sense. Because for Yende said this makes sense, and for Yende, Fayende's an Ifa priestess.
Okay.
Okay, so,
great.
you know, I trust and believe, you know.
Okay.
Fayende said absolutely. Okay? So look, just know that you making sense. Okay.
Cheers, y'all.
The priests and priestesses, we agree. Okay. The priests and priestesses agree, and my students agree too.
Awesome.
And my students agree too, and the rest of the chat does as well. There gotta be distinctions being made. All right. So, okay.
That's why I'm worried about what you'll have to say. What you'll have to say. When I confess to you that I'm feeling some type of way. Some type of way. If I could do it all over, just start again. Baby, I would have never been just your friend. If I could start all over, get a second chance, I would have listened to my heart and made you my man. Cause I don't wanna be friends. I don't wanna be friends. I don't wanna be friends.